Okay, so welcome to feedback. I give people feedback when they're in our playroom working with my daughter who has autism using the Sunrise program, our version of it here in our house. And one of the first things we do after the first session, we record it, we talk about how the person feels, we talk about if they have any questions, and then once, if they felt comfortable and they don't specifically have questions, then we add something that might, if we added one thing, what would be the thing that would most transform their session? And we just had somebody do a first session who, I'll use her, the first letter of her first name, but I won't use her name because of media and all those rights. So her name starts with an A. She had a really great first session from the standpoint of joining was completely amazing. She did all this joining. It was like a mirror. It was like this. You know what I mean? It was like, it was just very great. And we had the sound off because the sound didn't record on this other computer I have, but you could tell because they were really in harmony that was going well. So we wanted to work on celebrations because remember the first four things I was teaching is to have a really comfortable, happy attitude by choice with our child. And then we want to have joining whenever the child went into their world, which she did superlatively. We would want to have her position well to tell the difference whether she's in her world or not, and she seemed to do that really well, though my daughter isn't most of the session. And then, or the part I watched. And then the last thing is we want to have her celebrate and really be happy and cheer, do something when my daughter's interactive because we want to encourage more of that, and we come from the belief system that that would encourage more, which is something I learned at the Sunrise program. I have something like 25 things to teach people about celebrating, everything from how to make it interesting, different things to celebrate or not, verbal versus not, like different things, but we're going to focus on overall how to do more celebrating, which is really just as a summary why we would want to do it, and then we get later into more of the specifics about how we would do that. But number one is that a great celebration comes from the understanding that interaction is hard for this child. So if my child was really great at interacting, we wouldn't have a program, she wouldn't be autistic, she would be talking, she'd be in school, she'd be looking at people's eyes like nothing. But because she has difficulty with looking at people's eyes and communicating and maybe even processing language or having the desire to, she's now in this situation that she's way behind people her age. She's still having trouble with parts of sentences that kids who are like 5 years old can add all these clauses, but this and instead of that and things like that she's still working on. And kids who are less developed than her might even have trouble even having a whole sentence at all and things like that. From that perspective, it's like having a person in like a wheelchair that like has trouble like getting up. It's like a person who's had a stroke or has had like a car accident, and you're there to encourage them because we know stroke victims recover a lot better if they're really motivated versus not motivated. There's actual science behind that and other neurological injuries. We want to do everything possible to set the stage that our child will decide to really, really want to get out, like to really talk to a person, look at a person. So think of it as like you're trying to encourage a person who is like Wilma Rudolph, who couldn't run before she was in the Olympics because she had like braces and polio. It's like you're encouraging that person to get out of their wheelchair where they can barely walk and they go, everyone out here is walking and I can't walk. I've given up on walking. And you're trying to inspire her to basically climb like Mount Kilimanjaro or something. And you wouldn't probably succeed if all you did was leave it to her devices because she's already decided it's too hard. That's why she's autistic. She's withdrawn. She's stopped. She's like, these people are so, what expletive, hard to, man, I can't communicate with them. They talk too fast. They scare me. They make noises. They judge and make faces. And so she's already withdrawn and sort of given up her motivation alone to do it. So we're going to add celebrating to really be like adding some energy and reward and payout. So let's say it's this hard for another kid to learn, so they make this much effort because they get this much payout. Our child, it's this hard to learn and they get this much payout. So we're trying to say, okay, they get this much payout, but then they're going to get our celebration, and our celebrations are fun and they're exciting. We do stuff and I move. And, so you say, okay, maybe for that I'll make this bigger amount of effort. Okay, so briefly, appreciate always when she talks and looks at you, even if it's not like the longest sentence, even if she was making a pretty decent sentence with you and you know she can do that sentence lots of times. If you actually celebrate an ordinary sentence like, hi, nice to meet you, or hi, you walked in and she said, hi, my name is Anna, what's your name, which is shocking. Okay, so, I mean, she'd say something like that. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I love that you asked that. That's a great question. And by the way, here's my name. So you would want to celebrate like that. And notice how, I'm using my hands. And throughout this, I'm going to explain how it's really good to use your whole body. So let's say that, well, let's go into the other reasons. So number one is you're encouraging a person that finds it really hard and not that rewarding to do the thing that you're encouraging, which is to look to you, talk to you. And the other thing that we celebrate is another interactive gesture, which is flexibility, which is doing what you asked. If you say, oh, come sit over here, and she actually sits there like, oh my gosh, thank you for sitting next to me. Oh, and you put your arm around her shoulder. Oh, thank you, that's nice. And you're welcome to use physical gestures with her as long as they're like appropriate or whatever. We're not like, don't touch our child. Like, it's, you know, you have to call it a squeeze. Don't call it a hug. No, it's like, this is actually about loving a person. Normal people who love people hug people, at least in my world. And so you're welcome to go like, oh, thank you for sitting. It's so nice that you sat here. Or if you say, I really want to put these sunglasses on, and she gives you the sunglasses, you're like, thank you for letting me put your sunglasses on. Thank you for letting me share them. That's great. And you can be like, oh, look how I look. And you make it fun. You move, I'm not saying I'm just moving this particular way because I can't leave the camera a whole lot. But you want to move your body. Okay, also, we're believing again that cheering and having energy is part of the reward. And in addition, I call it the currency in the playroom because we're not paying her off by going, here's a jelly bean, like they do in some therapies. I won't name them by name. Behavioral type of therapies. Here, say hi to me. Say hi to me. Here's a jelly bean. Like, we don't do that. We like, hi, I'm Barbara. You'd be like, what's your name? And she'll be like, I'm Annie. Like, oh, thank you for telling me. Like, that's like what she's doing it for. We're not like, here's a jelly bean. Anyway, so we need to make sure we emphasize that because the more varied and the more interesting and dynamic we are, when we celebrate when she does interactions, the more likely she is to put more effort out when we're asking her to do more difficult things later on. Right now you're starting, so you're just learning the basics of celebrating what you're getting as far as interaction, but later on we're going to be asking for things. And you're going to need that extra level. Like, you wouldn't get that much interaction if you were asking her to do something that's a little challenging, like you were just having conversation today. Later you'll be like looking for the missing word, like we're saying, we're looking for the sound, the when word lately. So she might say, can we go shopping? I'll be like, and she'll say later after the session, yes, that's good telling me. Now I understand what you meant. Yes, after the session we can go shopping. Or no, not after this session, but you needed that word. She does that with me because she expects something's going to come back every time she makes that muscle, that effort. Okay, really briefly about the celebrations. It is most effective if you celebrate using the most important things. And I literally have 25 things on the list that we're going to eventually hit. Okay, but the top most important things, and they will teach you at the Sunrise program, number one is specificity, which is to use the words to describe what she did that was valuable. So if I'm just like sitting here and you're like, good, Barbara, or that was good, I'll be like, what was good? Like, I don't know what's good. And if you're like, oh, that was great, I'll be like, what was great? Like, I want more of that. Like, tell me how to get more of that. If you say that was great without telling me what, I'm not going to know what. And if you focus on non-interactive goals, so like she draws a picture and you're like, oh, wow, that's a great picture. She'll be like, oh, so you want me to draw lots and lots of pictures. That's not the message you want to give here. Everybody else out there might give people that message. We want to celebrate the interaction. So if she says, look at my picture, you might say, that's a great picture, and thank you for showing me that, because that's the interactive piece. Anytime you're with her that you find yourself celebrating something other than the interaction, ask yourself, what was interactive about this? Because obviously if she was isming, you wouldn't even be celebrating, you'd be doing something with your paper joining. Okay, so think about all the interactive words like helping, showing, sharing, telling, joking with me. I mean, anything, all the words, think of all the verbs that can only be done with another person. Nobody can show something to nobody. It has to be shown to you, that kind of thing. Those are all words you're going to get really good at being really brief, concise, good looking, good telling me that. I love that you shared that with me. Oh, I love that pencil. It's so nice that you gave me that, Okay, so we talked about specificity, frequency, which is very frequently, as often as you can remember to do it. Almost every sentence. Don't interrupt her, but as soon as she's done saying something, some big long sentence, you could be like, even during the sentence, people at the Institute will do things like, because she's talking, you don't interrupt her and say, oh, okay, shut up now. That was good talking. You wait till she's done, and then even during that, you can just say something good about the looking. Things like that. You can just celebrate silently, and notice how you use the body motions. Use things like taps, like, oh, thank you. You tap her knee. I do this thing on her head, like, oh, thank you so much for doing that, cute lady. People at the Institute kiss people on the head. I've gotten the habit of doing that with her because they're like, oh, mwah, thank you, Anna. yes, I will. And you say, yes, I will. And you get up and get something, like you kind of make fun. You hit the floor. Yes, I will. Good asking. All right. And I do it. Okay, that's about 10 minutes. Oh, last thing I'll say is celebrations are like an intimate, not like, they are an intimate moment between you and the child, so, or the person, the autistic person. It's not like you're celebrating to somewhere else in the room. You're like, thank you. I love, and it can be spoken to. I love that you told me that. Oh, it's a nice card. That is some of the nicest things someone's told me in a card. You can say it like it doesn't have. It can be explaining. Now I understand what you meant. I thought you meant someone else, but now I see you meant me. Thanks for saying that word, mom, at the end. And so it's really about you. You can say, that's good looking. Yes, yes, good for you. It's directed to her. So it's a sharing. It's a moment that's really like, you don't want to just be like, well, I was celebrating, but I was kind of cleaning while I was doing that. Those are kind of the most important things. One last thing is that celebrating anything, like even saying, this is a great, you wrote, that was a great story you wrote, which is not an interactive goal itself, it's just writing, which anybody can do in a really ism way. Somebody could be in an autism therapy halfway house and at 40 writing lines and lines. I don't want that. I want a child who interacts even if they don't write as well. But even celebrating this makes you feel better. So that being said about trying to celebrate the interactive gestures, if you feel like, you know, oh, this is a great thing, you put sparkles on this, this is a pretty picture, totally do that because that helps buoy your attitude. And the attitude is really core to the program.
She had the little stickers and she stuck them on some paper. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah,
Grandma.
It's cute. It's beautiful. By the way, those are all shortcuts to happiness in the book, Barry Neil Kaufman's book. I think it's the Happiness is Choice book. There's a red book with white writing called Happiness is Choice, and there's a section called Shortcuts to Happiness in the back. And things like being thankful about something is a shortcut to happiness, which helps your attitude in the playroom. And in addition to that, I actually kind of added one, which is finding something beautiful. So if you go, oh, this is so beautiful, I personally get really happy when I find something beautiful. And that's the same as judging something as good. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Hold on, I have to buzz somebody in my apartment building. I don't know how to do this in the middle. I'm not going to do it right now. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Good luck. Keep celebrating anything you find that feels good and you feel like you really want to celebrate it, but then just make sure you add as much about interaction as you can. In the end, that's the most important thing to celebrate in there. And I will see you next time. Bye. Bye.